Okay, today I'll be teaching you order of operations, or Pemdas as some people call it. The other thing you might have heard is, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. All these things are basically just talking about the rules that we follow when doing add, subtract, multiply, and divide kind of problems. So PEMDAS stands for please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, or parentheses, exponents, multiply and divide, add or subtract. Now, I like putting a space between these two, and there's a very important reason for it, because I circle them together. So multiply and divide are circled together, and so is adding and subtracting. And there's a very important reason for this, a very fundamental concept in mathematics. And let's go over to a problem real quick. I said that multiplication and division are circled together. I call them tied. They're tied because of this. If I had 6 divided by 2, division is actually, all it really is multiplying by the reciprocal of the number. So if I'm dividing 6 divided by 2, it's the same as 6 times the reciprocal of 2 is 1/2. Just flip the fraction upside down. It was 2 over 1, so what's 1 over 2? Now, since all division problems can be written as multiplication problems, logically, it's impossible for multiplication to come before division. They're actually tied. So that's what I like to say here, is that they're actually tied with each other. Okay? And for the same idea, subtraction and addition are actually tied also, because subtraction, all subtraction really is adding the opposite of the number. So let me walk you through that. 6 minus 2, the opposite of 2 is a negative 2, so 6 minus 2 is the same as 6 plus a negative 2. Now, since all subtraction problems can be written as addition problems, then they're actually just the same thing. Subtraction is just adding negative numbers. Division is actually just multiplying fractions. So they're actually the same thing. So keep that in mind as you do problems. Multiplication and division are actually the same thing, and adding and subtracting are the same thing. Now, we don't teach that to little kids because that would just confuse them, but you're at the grade level now where that should make sense to you. So multiplication and division are tied, and adding and subtracting are tied. So anytime you do an order of operations question, what I want you to do is always number the problem first, one step at a time. So let me walk you through that. You're going to look at the problem, and you're going to say, do I have any parentheses? Well, in this case, no. Do I have any exponents? Yes. If I have an exponent, right above that exponent, I want you to put a 1 and circle it. That's going to be the first thing we're going to do. Then I go back to the problem. Do I have any more exponents? No. Do I have any multiplication or division? Remember that they're actually tied, so do either one of those. If I have multiplication or division, I actually do whichever one came first in the problem, okay? So in this case, I would do this second. And then I don't have any more multiplication or division, so I would add or subtract last. That would be third. So the first thing I'm going to do is square this number. The second thing I'm going to do is divide. And then the third thing I'm going to do is add. Now, before I get started here, let's talk about multiplication and division one more time. If I have multiplication and division, since they're tied, multiplication and division are tied, which one do I do first? Well, if I do have multiplication and division in a problem, I do whichever one came first. So multiplication and division, which one came first in the problem? The multiplication. So it's first, and this is second. Okay? So if I have multiplication and division, I do whichever one came first in the problem. So in this case, I would multiply first. I'd get 12 divided by 3 is 4. And the same thing happens with addition. So if I had 3 minus 2 plus 5, okay? Some people think you're going to add first, so you would add 2 plus 5 first, but they're actually wrong. Because addition and subtraction are tied, you do whichever one came first in the problem. So in this case, you would subtract first and add second. Now, if it was written like this, then in this case, since addition came first, you would add first and subtract second. I hope that makes sense. So let's go back to the problem. So now, I have 27 divided by 3 squared plus 4. Remember, the first thing I do is number the problem. I'm going to do the square first, then I'm going to divide, then I'm going to add. So in this case, I'm going to square it first. 3 squared is not 6, so be careful with that. It's 3 times 3, which is 9. You're going to do one step at a time. So 3 times 2 is 9, and everything else comes straight down. So the plus sign comes straight down, the 4 comes straight down, the divide sign comes straight down, and the 27 comes straight down. Okay? Then I'm going to do the division second. 27 divided by 9 is 3. The plus sign comes down, and the 4 comes down. Then I'm going to do my third step. So first step I squared, second step I divided, third step I'm going to add whatever's left. Some people think you're supposed to add these two things, but you're actually supposed to just add whatever's left when you get to that step. What's left? 3 plus 4, 7. So my answer is 7. All right, let's do another example. Now, this is actually kind of tricky because this is probably the first time you've seen a long fraction bar. What a long fraction bar means is this. When you have a fraction bar over the entire thing, so when you have a fraction bar over the entire thing, such as this, 3 plus 1 over, let's say, 2. That is very different from this, 3 over 2 plus 1. And here's why. If the fraction bar is over the whole thing, I like to say that you have invisible parentheses there. So in this case, you're going to add first because, in a sense, it's in a parentheses. So you're going to add first, and then you're going to divide second. Now here, the fraction bar is only over the 3 and the 2, so the only thing you're going to do first is do the 3 divided by 2. So be careful with that. Long fraction bars mean to do everything on the top, everything in the bottom. So if I had, a problem like this, 3 plus 2 over 5 minus 2, then what I would do is I would do this entire top first. I would do this first. I would do the whole problem on the bottom second, and then I would divide last. Okay? So let's go back to this problem. So in this case, I have a long fraction bar. When this happens, like I said, you want to do the entire top first, get an answer, do the entire bottom second, get an answer, and then divide last. So let's walk ourselves through it. Do the entire top first, because it's a parenthesis, do the entire bottom second, and then divide. So the first thing we're going to do is multiply, because it's on the top of the fraction, which is like a parentheses. Now I've done that whole problem. Now I'm going to come to the bottom and do this problem. Now, since this whole thing is like in an invisible parentheses, what I want you to do is this. Follow order of operations inside that problem. So if I have multiplication and I have a parentheses, what am I going to do first? I'm going to do the parentheses. So it's second. And then I'm going to multiply third, following Pemdas. And then I'm going to divide fourth. So let's go through the problem. 9 times 4 is the first thing I'm going to do. 9 times 4 is 36. Over, leave everything else alone. One step at a time will keep you out of trouble. If you try to do multiple steps at a time, you're probably going to make a dumb mistake. All right, we did step 1, now do step 2. We add, right? 4 plus 2 is 6. So we get 6 times 3, and all of that is over 36. Okay? Now 3 times 6 is 18. I'm going to do this one over here, if you don't mind. 36 over 3 times 6, because that's the third thing I'm going to do, is 3 times 6, which is 18. So I did step 1, I did the top, I did the parentheses, I did the multiplication. Don't forget the fourth step, which is divide. And 36 divided by 18 is 2. Done. Not hard at all. All right. Now on to the next problem. So let's have a little conversation real quick about fractions. Now there's a lot of teachers who say students have a hard time with fractions, and I would probably argue with them that they're probably not teaching them the right way, because fractions are actually not that hard at all. So when you see a fraction for now on in my class, I want you to think of it like this. If I saw the fraction 1/2, what I want you to think of is the top of the fraction, or the numerator, means multiplication, and the bottom of fractions mean divide. So if I did 1/2 times 4, What I'm basically saying is 4 times 1 divided by 2, which is 2. So let's see it again. Let's say if I said 3 halves, what's 3 halves of 4? Well, since the top means multiply and the bottom means divide, all I'm going to do is I'm going to do 3 times 4, then divide by 2, or even better, 4 divided by 2 times 3. I like to divide first because I always end up with smaller numbers. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 2 times 3 is 6. And that's all fractions really are. Multiplication on the top, divide on the bottom. So keep that in mind as you go through these lessons. All right, so we have 2/3 parentheses 9 plus 2 minus 2 to the third power. So remember, first step, number your steps. So step number 1, do I have any parentheses? Yes, so I'm going to do this first. Step 2, do I have any more parentheses? No. Do I have any exponents? Yes, so I'm going to do that second. Step 3, do I have any more exponents? No. Do I have any multiplication or division? Yes, I have multiplication because that fraction means times, so that's going to be third. And some people like to break this up into 2 problems, but I don't like doing that. All right, so first step, add the 9 plus the 12 because that's step 1. 9 plus 12 is 21. Remember, everything else comes straight down and make your life a lot easier. All right. Then step 2, I want to do the 2 to the third power. 2 to the third power is 2 times 2 times 2, not 2 times 3. So it's 3 2's. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Everything else comes straight down. Your problems are going to be kind of long, but you'll get them right on the first try. Okay, I did my step 2, now I do my step 3. 21 times 2/3. Remember what the top of the fraction means, times, and the bottom means divide. And like I said, I like to divide first. So 21 divided by 3 is 7, and 7 times 2 is 14. And hopefully by now you're seeing that I only had 3 steps, but I still have another step here. It's because I forgot that there was one more step here, which was the subtraction last. So that was step 4. 14 minus 8 is 6. So that is my last step, and my answer is 6. Real easy. All right. Now, in the next problem, we are going to have to solve a problem we call an expression where you have multiplication, division, add, subtracting with variables. And in this case, let's say x is equal to 2, y is equal to 3, and let's say z is equal to 5. Let's make it a little bit easier on ourselves. Let's make z equal to 4. All right? So x is equal to 2, y is equal to 3, and z is equal to 4. So let's do this first problem. What I'm going to do is plug my numbers in. So the first thing I'm going to do is put my numbers in there. So 5 times, what is x? 2 plus 3. All of that over 2 times 4 minus 1. So I'm going to label my steps. I have a long fraction bar, so I'm going to do the entire top first and the entire bottom second. So the entire top first, I have multiplication and addition here, so I'm going to do this first because multiplication becomes before addition. I'm going to do this second. Then I'm going to go to the bottom of the fraction. I have multiplication and subtraction, so I'm going to do this third. I'm going to do the subtraction fourth. And then don't forget at the end, I'm going to divide if possible, so that's going to be fifth. So 5 steps here. So let's do step 1. 5 times 2 is 10. So this is 10 plus 3 over 2 times 4 minus 1. Then I do my second step. 10 plus 3 is 13 over 2 parentheses 4 minus 1, and that fraction bar should be over the whole thing. That's step 2. Go to step 3, which is multiply. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 minus 1 over 13. And 8 minus 1 is 7, so it's 13 over 7. And then that's our last step. Our last step would be to divide, but if you look at this fraction, there's nothing I can do to it. I don't like writing decimals. Leave answers as fractions. Are a lot easier that way. All right? So let's do one more example. We have 3 parentheses 2y plus 1 to the x power. So just like before, we're going to put the numbers in. So we have 3 parentheses 2 times 3 plus 1 to the second power, because x is 2. So I have a whole bunch of stuff going on here, so what do I do first? Well, I obviously do parentheses first in PEMDAS, so go to the parentheses. In my parentheses, I have multiply and add, so I still follow order of operations there, so I'm going to do this first. I'm going to do this addition second. I've done all the parentheses now. Then I'm going to square it third, so this will be third, the square. And my final step will be to multiply. That'll be fourth. Like I said, just follow order of operations. So 2 times 3 is 6. 6 plus 1. Don't do 2 steps at a time. You're going to get into trouble that way. 2 times 3 was 6. And 6. Do my second step now, which is add. 6 plus 1 is 7. Square it third. Be careful, it's not 14, it's 7 times 7, which is 49. And then I'm going to multiply last. 49 times 3. Well, 50 times 3 is 150, so it's 3 less than that. So it's 147. And there you have it. That's order of operations. Remember PEMDAS, and remember the key to this is always number your problem first. Do 1 step at a time. Follow PEMDAS. Don't forget multiplication and division are tied, and so are adding and subtracting. Have fun learning this, and good luck.